What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video of mine. Today with a special thing that I normally don't do, but since last patch was pretty, pretty vast and pretty big, I decided to do a little patch review. Some of you may find it interesting, and let's get right into it. So there were a vast variety of heroes addressed with changes, nerfs, buffs, whatever you may want to call it, and some generic changes as well. The first one that we get started with is Season Marksman. At this point, I don't even know how many heroes have Season Marksman left. The only one that springs to mind immediately is Arthas. Blizzard, over the last couple of months, they have tried continuously to get rid of the generic standard neutral talents. In the past we had plenty of them. We had Bribe on way more heroes. We had other stuff like Envenom, all the good stuff. Sprint, those are the OG talents. If you remember Envenom and Sprint, man, you've been playing the game for a very long time, and I appreciate you. Can you imagine an Uther with level 20 Divine Storm baseline and Sprint to dive right into the action and then being able to cast all of his abilities, including ultis, in a Divine Spirit form? Man, the alpha was one hell of a place, wasn't it? So yeah, back to the topic. Season Marksman got a little bit buffed. I think the talent is still pretty meh. On Arthas, for example, I like to take it nonetheless on maps where there is not a lot of PvE content to be done. For example, sometimes I like that on Hanamura. In fact, I really do like it on Hanamura. 3-lane maps like Tomb of Spider Queen, I think, as well, where you can rotate a lot, and stack those minions up. So nothing really to be drastically changing the game, but a nice change nonetheless. So why not? But let's get into the nitty-gritty here with real hero changes now. Arthas leading the charge. So they tweaked his Death Lord talent a little bit, which was really weird, simply because there was so many other good level 4 talents in his kit. Most importantly, the stacking slow. It's just so much better in every aspect. They removed the increased range of Death Color, which very, very rarely ever came into play. You can now use it on an enemy hero, and the mana cost is refunded. I still don't think that makes the talent viable, simply because either Icy Talons or the Slowing Stack is just so much more impactful. Frozen Tempest, in my opinion, is a way more impactful ability than Q, so I don't really like it. And I think full Q build will once again remain the sign of an inexperienced Arthas player who usually will do it wrong. Okay. Then let's move on to Diablo, Sacrificial Soul. The souls gained from stunning an enemy hero with Shadow Charge is increased. I think as someone who doesn't like Diablo, or who doesn't like to play Diablo himself, I think this is a nice change, gives more variety. I still think the flames are probably going to give you more value on average, especially on maps where there's not a whole lot of walls to ram people into with your Shadow Charge. But this makes the talent certainly a little bit more viable for sure. So yeah, why not? Actually 5 souls is a pretty big deal. And especially in the late game when you get the charge reset at 16 with your overpower, I think it can actually be pretty good. If you die in the late game with full souls and then you come back more quickly to a nice healthy amount of souls with your HP pool ramping up, I think it's not that bad. Actually not that bad at all. Next one, we have Leoric, one of my personal favorites, going from Diablo, who I absolutely dislike playing myself, to a hero that I love playing and I think is heavily underused for many players, is Leoric. Skeletal Swing, they buffed, the cooldown from 14 to 12 seconds, so you can swing your mace a little bit more frequently, which is great, especially at level 4 when you get the wave clear, so that will make you very useful in lane, very good for rotations, even better than you already are. And they also reduced mana cost. Now, as much as I like buffs for Leoric, because he's a hero that I enjoy playing, I don't like these changes necessarily. I really don't like the mana buffs. They've done that. Blizzard has done that so many times on many different heroes. Arthas, there's so many soul laners, Rehgar, where they just reduced mana cost over and over again, to the point where people can just spam abilities in lane. Irel also to be mentioned here in this point. People can just spam their abilities and not getting punished for it. And personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I think mana management should always be one of the core competences that you should have as a soul laner, as a heroes player in general. And there's still some remainders of heroes that have insane mana costs compared to some of the newer reworks, like Tyrael, for example. He's the most infamous mana-thirsty boy left in the Nexus, and I think there's a little bit of an imbalance here. So it's cool for Leoric, but I don't think it's a good strategy for many heroes to do that all the time. Level 13, Unyielding Despair. The cooldown reduction is increased. I always liked Unyielding Despair, and to see that this talent gets buffed makes me really happy. Makes me really, really happy. So more W build for me, and I think this is a good change. Sonya. Oh man, Sonya, you've been through some tough times. The snoo is no longer applied as hard as it used to, right? They changed her damage on the Whirlwind from 63 to 69. Coincidence on that number? I don't think so. Level 10 leap cooldown reduced by 10 seconds. Rampage was buffed, which is the Ancient Spear cooldown reduction. That's fine, that's fine. I like the leap cooldown reduction. I feel like leap is a good ulti, or can be a good ulti. However, I mean, a lot of people are not using it or are using it the wrong way. So nerfing the cooldown by 10 seconds still has, or leaves a considerable cooldown left. But also, I think it takes away the fear of a lot of players to misuse or to waste leap. So hopefully that makes more people more courageous to use leap when it's really needed. It's similar oftentimes to a Hanzo arrow, where people are just always waiting for someone else to engage and then follow up with a leap, when sometimes you as a Hanzo or you as a Sonya need to be the one to actually engage. So I think that's cool. That's a cool change. Sonya was really weak, or feels really weak at the moment. I think this helps her a little bit. Alexstrasza, Mama Alexstrasza, taking good care of her dragon lings. Let's see. From what I could see earlier, is that they basically buffed the E build, which, by the way, in my opinion, was never truly bad. I think it's one of those phenomenons where a lot of people meme at it and say, "Oh, lol, E build doesn't add anything to others. It doesn't heal others, so it's bad." But it actually gave Alexstrasza some much-needed self-sustain and some not much-needed crown control as well, and extra damage on the flames. So that felt really, really good. Now, they reduced the mana cost in Flame Buffet. Kind of nice, if you pick Flames of Fury, that is. The slow amount is reduced from 60 to 50, but the flames no longer decay. So they nerfed the slow effect, but they also take away the decay. So overall, I think that's a fantastic trade for heat exhaustion. Wonderful. This can actually cause Alexstrasza to have some vicious CC. Dragon Scales. Armor amount increased from 40 to 50. Dragon Scales was still underused. I think it's now better. 50 armor is no joke. Tough Love. They also buffed the armor amount here. And they increased the duration minimally, but still very much noticeably. So that gives more power to the Q build, which I also think is very good, especially with the flowers. You pick them up and you spam your Qs. Very nice. Ancient Flame no longer reduces Alexstrasza's attack speed. That is huge. And that makes Alexstrasza's level 20 talent there so much better. I think this change alone has what it takes to make this the best level 20. It's so good. Man, you can get so much slow and so much, oh my god, this is just so good. Brightwing, from one big mama dragon to one smaller dragon. Let's see what Brightwing has in store for us here. Greater Polymorph at level 1. No longer resets the cooldown of Polymorph and takedowns. Get away with that. I don't think it ever came into play, really. And give it something more useful. If Brightwing hits an enemy here with Arcane's Flare, it's center damage while they're polymorphed, then reduce Polymorph's cooldown by 6 seconds and gain 50 mana. I still don't think it's going to be the go-to level 1 now, but already it gives you some way and possibility of triggering the talent's effect manually instead of just waiting for someone to get a takedown. So I like that change. Shifting away from being dependent on your allies and transitioning into you can do it yourself if you're good enough, if you aim carefully enough. So nice change. This is the kind of balance philosophy that I would love to see more often. Critical Mist, level 7. Soothing Mist heals allied heroes for 150. Double this healing if a disabled effect is removed. That, once again, makes using your trait to save allies currently slowed, rooted, stunned, much more rewarding. So your timing, your keen eye will be rewarded. Nice. Thumbs up. Safety dust bonus allied healing increased from 25 to 75. Now that's a nice little buff there. Now has a crit kicker to show when the bonus healing is applied. Whew. I'm not sure if that's good still. Like the additional movement speed or the additional ability shield might just be better. But I'm excited to try this out myself simply because it's such a hefty buff, you know. Let's try it out at some point. Rehgar. Can we just say that Rehgar is probably one of the most frequent and regular guests on the Balance Festival? I think he's partying every month almost, it feels. Feral Heart, his level 4 mount change. No longer increases Rehgar's mana regeneration while in ghost form. I like that because mostly you would just be shifting in and out anyways, and only when you rotate or come back from base after getting killed or heal or replenishing there will you really get value from Feral Heart. And not even then, because when you die at the Hall of Storms, you come back with full resources anyway, so the talent just always felt really bad. But now they keep the health regen, but they remove the mana, and Ghost Wolf attacks will give Rehgar back 1% of his max mana quadrupled against heroes. So that means 4% max mana if you hit an enemy hero with your wolf attack. This is a bait. I call that is a bait. And why is that a bait? Because it possibly prevents less experienced players into using their lunge attack all the time. And that is not the way you play Rehgar. And here's a Rehgar main speaking too. This is not the way you play him. You use lunge only when it's safe to do so. Sure, you can still get value from it if you do it against neutral targets or non-hero targets, but that's only 1% mana. And in that case, you may as well just go for the Lightning Shield level 4, you know? And I think the Lightning Shield 4 will give you way more mana regen on average. So I still don't think Feral Heart is good. If you want to pick it as a health regen tool, not really, because then you're only thinking about yourself. But Healing Totem will give you more regen, and it will give it to your allies as well. So, no. It's a nice idea behind it, but I think the numbers are not good enough to make this a worthy investment. So, stick to the Lightning Shield mana regen or Healing Totem. Tyrande. It's an interesting world we live in which Tyrande needs buffs, right? Because I still think, even in her previous form, she was one of the best healers in the game. So now they buff some talents that were probably underused, like this one. From the second healer or the second healing target, if it's a different one than the previous, gets additional healing value. 60% is a hefty buff, so this is actually worth trying now, I think. True Shot Aura was buffed as well. Worth trying. 25%. You have someone like Arthas. You have someone like Raymond in your team. Give it a shot. Sounds very interesting. Starfall was buffed as well, simply because the damage it provided was not enough to compete against the healing. Nightstalk gave. I just realized I'm so bad with talent names, by the way. It's probably not even called Nightstalk, the other ulti. But you know what I mean. The other ulti just had so much more healing. Quickening Blessing, Light of Elune's movement speed bonus was increased from 15 to 20. Sure, give it a try. 5% is not the end of the world, but it's worth trying. Eye of the Huntress, Shadowstalk it was called. There we go. Level 20 was buffed. The real duration was increased from 2 to 10 seconds. Man, Blizzard isn't messing around this time because they're going ham on the numbers. Wow, not saying, okay, we go from 2 to 5 or 2 to 4. We're going from 2 to 10. Crazy. Wow, that's a long reveal in the late game. Makes this talent really good now. Celestial Wrath, which is the Starfall upgrade, increased the slow from Starfall to 40%. Why not? Let's give it a try. That's a 20% increase. Not bad at all. So yeah, I think Tyrande is a huge buffed hero in this patch. Because it also adds so much more variety to her talents now. I can't wait to play some more Tyrande myself, actually. White main. Sorry, all the white main fans out there. I'm not a white main player at all, and I rarely played her ever since she got her first rework, so I have to skip. I cannot give a very well-founded opinion on these challenges or on these changes. So, sorry, white main fans. I love the white main announcer, though. One of my favorites. Melee Assassin Alarak. So, Alarak was in this weird spot that a lot of people feared him. Some people didn't. Some people owned on Alarak, some people didn't. But it was just this given first ban in almost every game now, because the games that people got owned in against the good Alarak player were probably so marking, they were probably so frightening and so burned into their memories that it was just like a, like a conditioned thing to do. You see Alarak, you ban him. They're trying to weaken him a little bit more now with Q damage reduced. Health threshold reduction increased from 75 to 80. So, you need a little bit more health to get, a little bit more health to get the bonus healing in. And the damage was also reduced on Show of Force. Overall, some minor DPS changes. If it still turns out that Alarak is too scary and gets banned too often, they're probably going to do more. But, it's a nice start. So, Genji, what do we have here? Genji, man. Genji in a very similar place to a lot of heroes at the moment in the fact that the previous nerfs, they were just too much to make him a reliable and strong and impactful pick. That doesn't mean Genji's unplayable. There's still people who can do crazy things with him because he's such a, nimble and volatile hero. But to a lot of people, Genji just doesn't cut it anymore. And I think the main reason for Genji underperforming at the moment is the nerf to his auto attack range. You always have to be so close to enemies right now to get your poke in. And then the damage isn't really as good anymore. So yeah, the meta also has shifted away from all-in comms being really good. So let's see what they do with Genji. Strike at the heart, which is the E debuff at the end. They reduce the damage a little bit, but instead the bonus damage is now being dealt quicker than before. I think they give reason for it because if there's a cooldown thing that you can do, and then if you do it twice in a row, the 2-second poison over time window would then overlap with the next follow-up one. So let's see what they actually say here in better words. Reset window and Swift Strike, so we're changing it now. Yeah. Okay. It doesn't match the Genji's reset window, so that's cool. I really like that. So once again, they're trying to sync his damage and optimize it a little bit better. That's a quality of life change that is much appreciated. Thank you for the resub, or thank you for the new sub, actually. It's a slightly smaller boss. Thank you very much, and welcome to the ranks of the Royal Swiss Guard. Thank you for the support. Augmented Guard is buffed, and Dodge as well. So these two talents, they suffer from a well-known disease that perfect defense is just so much better, which is the cooldown reduction on his deflect. And they're trying to buff the shield, maybe nice. And they're also trying to buff dodge, which, to be fair, is actually a situational talent. If you play against heavy auto attacks like Raynor, Cassia, Vala, all those heroes, dodge can still be good. And it certainly is a little bit better now. So, fine changes here, no stuff to object. X-Strike also gets a buff, which I find to be very cool. X-Strike is oftentimes a crucial ability for Genji to take when he needs another escape mechanism or just damage avoidance mechanism. So the fact that they buff the damage on the first strike, but nerf the final damage, also buff the final damage, is just wonderful. Makes it a much better ability now, and I hope more people take it. Junkrat. I think Junkrat is a very oppressive hero if played well, so I wouldn't like to see too many buffs, except on talents that aren't really picked at the moment. So minor buffs here, nerf here on the silence. Riptire. Oh man, Riptire change is huge. I think that's well justified too, because Riptire can be such an oppressive damage tool. I would have also loved to see some nerfs to his level 20 cannonballs, because they are so strong. At level 20, Junkrat can become such a formidable poker, wave clearer, sieger, that I would have loved to see some changes there. But, still fine changes. Riptire nerf, much appreciated. KT, Kel'Thuzad, the one-shot Thuzad. Chilling Touch, that was taken almost all the time now. Gives you so much control over slowing heroes and then hitting them with your abilities. It's a nice bonus damage follow-up after your ult and chain combo. So, nice nerf. It's simply like, KT is not a really good hero, per se. It's just a very oppressive hero that sometimes leaves very little room for counterplay. If he catches you in chain, you might as well just die if you're squishy. So there's nothing you can do about it. So removing this one-shot potential a little bit at least feels kind of good. They buff Frost Blast by giving it more travel speed. It's a good change. I think that is actually the greatest weakness of Frost Blast, that people are just always out of range and can run away from it. So why not? Give it a shot, but not in my game. Icy Grasp, bonus slow amount increased here. That's just a talent that wasn't really picked that much. So people can try it now. So, yep, here we go. Lunara, Nature's Toxin. Not many changes, but just a change to her poison. They've done that before in the past if they wanted to achieve better scaling changes. And that's what they're doing right now. More damage flat in the early game, but then not as good of a scaling anymore. And I think that's a nice change because Lunara felt really weak in the early game, but after 13-16, some power spikes were reached, and then she felt very strong. So maybe that leaves players with a more balanced and well-rounded Lunara experience. Could be a nice change. Nazeebo coming through, one of my favorites. Now, I looked at these changes before because I was so curious, and I think Blizzard missed a very good opportunity to make Nazeebo truly great again. Instead, we're left with a slightly better Nazeebo that still lacks in core aspects of the game right now, and I'm going to tell you why. Widowmakers. So first off, I wanted to say that according to these changes, Blizzard said and saw that Frog build, Toad build, was the most frequent one to be picked, and in my opinion, it was the best one. The Toads, so good when it comes to zoning, and they usually left you with most damage too, and especially in the late game. So they buffed Widowmakers and Thing of the Deep to make other alternatives a little bit better. So they reduced the mana cost of spiders by 10. Kind of nice if you pick Widowmakers now. Kind of nice. So this alone makes it more tempting to pick it. And when you complete the quest, it reduces the cooldown of spiders by 2 seconds. So against certain heroes that have very little escape, like Ana, like Cassia, like Jaina, all those heroes that are very slow, if you pick spiders now and you complete your quest, it's going to be feeling really good, really, really good to land those spooters and make them run away screaming. Thing of the Deep, man. That talent is the strongest if you get to level 20 and have all of your stacks, because you will be a late game monster poker with the safe range, making it harder for people to touch you. And it only gets better now. After reaching 50 stacks, which is roughly done around level 7, 8, 9 if you're a good player, 10% spell power, and then you get 100. That should be done around level 10, 11, 12. And then you get 10% spell power. So you're going to have more spell power by the time you hit level 13 if you have a bad game. So that feels really good. 10% spell power is nothing to be sneezed at. You can then pick up the 16 Soul Harvest, and you're going to get even more spell power. So it's still a risky talent to pick, in my opinion, because you lose so much early game pressure. But why not? Why not? Dead Rush, more damage. Dead Rush should be picked with Thing of the Deep in most cases. So I like these two together now being a little bit stronger. Why not? Feels really good. Annihilating Spirit at level 20 was buffed, or changed, I should say, in a way that it no longer moves flat faster, but just gets more speed over the time you cast it. I don't know. I'm a fan of Gargantuan because I think there's less room for people to misuse it. It has a lower cooldown. It's nice for static objectives. But why not? If you're a fan of Spirit, you can pick that now. If you don't have stacks at level 20, let's say you have a bad game, or you play Nazeebo on a map where you can stack a lot, which, shame on you, shouldn't be your mistake to make in the first place, then you can go for this. Which, by the way, leads me to one public service announcement. Don't pick Nazeebo on 2-lane maps. Don't pick Nazeebo on maps where you can't stack. So don't pick it on Curse Hollow, for example, or Sky Temple. Because these games not only make it harder for you to stack, but they also usually don't go to level 20. If you go to level 20 at Sky Temple, your base is almost wrecked and your comeback mechanics are very limited. And last but never least, we have Mama Zaggy, Zagara, the Zerg Queen, coming in. Now, Zagara is a very interesting hero to me. I love playing her myself. She used to be one of the greatest lane bullies, especially when towers still had ammo. You could just drain the ammo so fast with all of your roaches and your Hydra. It felt so good to be a Zagara back then. Ever since the ammo changes on towers and buildings, didn't feel as good as anymore. And they also gutted Zagara hard, taking a lot of her damage away, increasing her mana costs, yada yada yada. So now, they're trying to give a little bit of love back to Zagara by increasing her base attack damage by almost 10. Huge. Huge buff. Huge buff. That is the reason why they nerfed Serrated Spines a little bit. From 0.3 to 0.2% per stack. Still worth it in my opinion, because this provides her with so much more lane bullying presence. So, good trade-off in my opinion. Volatile Acid no longer increases Baneling damage against non-heroic targets, but increases the damage of Banelings by 20% against everything. Everything, not just non-heroic targets. Fantastic. Makes Volatile Acid really strong now, in my opinion. Corpse Feeders no longer reduces Roachling's damage against non-heroic units, but increases the health of Roachlings by 30%. Once again, they're trying to go away from this, PvE only damage value. So they make these talents a little bit stronger, even against heroes, or even against non-heroic targets. So really nice changes. I love it. Infest, making your ranged minions stronger while active. Initial damage bonus for ranged minions increased from 100 to 125. So all across the board, all level 1 talents of Zagara are buffed. I like that a lot because this truly allows you to become kind of the former lane bully that you used to be. And now she counters certain hero really well while still getting countered by other heroes really well too. I'm going to tell you my two worst enemies when I play Zagara, and you normally should never pick her into these heroes, or that's why you normally should pick... You shouldn't pick Zagara early in your draft ever, because people then just pick Illidan or Chen. Sometimes Rexar to counter you really well, but Illidan and Chen, man, they can bully Zagara really, really hard. Especially Illidan later at level 10. Goes the hunt, charges at you, and there's nothing you can do anymore. Bye-bye split pushing Zagara. Level 7, Baneling Massacre no longer increases the damage of Banelings. That was shifted to Volatile Acid. So instead, the reduce cooldown on charge of Banelings is pretty nice. Because now you can shoot Banelings more frequently. Pew, pew, pew. With more damage. Pew, pew, pew. Feels good. Devouring Maw, mana cost reduced from 100 to 70, and the damage increased from 88 to 94. Oh, still one of the highest cooldown abilities in the game. It's okay, though, honestly. If they lower the cooldown even more, it would be too broken, wouldn't it? Probably. I have to think about this a little bit. I think the changes are fine. I think if you lower Maw's cooldown to 75 or 70, it might be too oppressive. So yeah, that's fine actually. I take my initial disbelief back. I think this is okay. Brood expansion was removed. It was never used anyways. You either went for Mutalisk because of its absurd lane pushing power, or sometimes you went for Corrosive Saliva because the percentage damage, always outperforming the Brood expansion. The Hydralisk in the late game, if you pick that talent and it has normal Hydralisk, it's so weak. It dies immediately. It's so bad. You never took that. So instead, we get a new talent, Jagged Barbs. Jagged Barbies. When on creep, Zagara's attack range is increased by an additional 10%, and her basic attack damage is increased by 30%. What? This opens new possibilities. You can now play Zagara as a ranged auto-attack bully. I want to try that immediately. I want to try that with Serrated Spines, then go Devouring Maw, and then go Jagged Barbs, and you just play her as a team fighter. Oh, man. The inner experimentist, the inner scientist within me wants to really try that out at some point. Could be a bait talent, you know, could be a trap, but certainly a very tempting looking trap. Mutalisk additional functionality reduces the cooldown of the Hunter Killer by 4 seconds. Oh my god. Mutalisk became even stronger for split pushing. Ay, ay, ay. Corrosive Salve, additional functionality, now also causes Roachlings to deal additional damage equal to 1.75% of the enemy's max health. Roaches don't really deal that much damage, so it is nice against tanks, though. Man, what if you put roaches and the Hunter Killer onto a tank now? Even more damage now than before. I'm very intrigued by these level 16 power spikes for Zagara. I feel like no matter which talent you go for now, it's going to be strong. It's going to be more impactful. And I think that's something they wanted to achieve here. Making her level 16 talents more impactful, which should help her scale into the late game more. Wow, I love that change on Zagara. I think that is probably the best change of the patch. We have a winner for Zagara because not only did they add buffs that make sense, they also added changes that could drastically change or allow new ways of playing her. That is a slow clap from me. Blizzard, I think you did very well. Overall verdict on the patch, I think it was a 8 out of 10 because they addressed a lot of heroes that needed help. They missed out a couple of opportunities, in my opinion, with Nazeebo, whose main weakness, by the way, I forgot to go over that. Nazeebo's main weakness is currently his projectile traveling speed. Ever since they increased 10% movement speed on every hero, it feels like Nazeebo's abilities can be dodged more easily, or it's really hard to land them right now. So, Toads are slow, Ravenous Spirit is slow, the zombie wall builds up slowly, people can just run away from it very quickly. So yeah, if they had changed the casting animations, the traveling speed of all of his projectiles by even 5%, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. But anyways, guys, that was my quick preview or review on the new balance patch. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what your favorite changes are, or let me know which changes you would have liked to see there from Blizzard as well. Until then, feel free to subscribe on the channel and leave a thumbs up. I'll see you for more Heroes content and other content on the channel relatively soon. I hope you have a good day. Peace.